Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Dr. Natasha Kaoma, and I'm really excited about the W3 conference. I'm very sad that I couldn't make it. I couldn't come because of unforeseen circumstances, but I really hope that you're having a great time, and I would have really loved to see Kumasi. Um, yeah, so anyway, my name is Natasha, just as I have said. I'm very passionate about women, and I did not even think about it when I was asked to present at this conference, to speak at this conference, to speak life into women, and to meet other exceptional women from Ghana and from all across Africa. So I'm very excited about this. Perhaps I should tell you a little bit about myself. I'm currently working as a medical doctor at the University Teaching Hospital, which is the biggest teaching hospital in Zambia. Well, it's the biggest hospital overall. And apart from that, I also work with an organization known as Copper Rose Zambia. Copper Rose is an organization that I started with a colleague of mine. Her name is Faith. And together, all we wanted to do was to change the narrative about women. Now, when you think about copper rose, the name comes from the fact that copper is Zambia's biggest and greatest natural resource. It makes up about 76% of the country's income. And in a country like Zambia and in many African countries, we see a lot of women that are underprivileged, women that are disadvantaged in every aspect you can think of. So Copper Rose really is about inspiring women. It's about showing women what they can do. It's about telling women and girls that they can do it too. And that is the idea behind Copper Rose, telling them that they are copper roses. They can be as valuable as copper and even much more for their country, and they can bring about development. So Copper Rose reminds women of what they can do and of their capabilities. Copper Rose currently has programs in sexual and reproductive health, women's economic empowerment, maternal and child health, and one of my favorite subjects, which is menstrual hygiene management. Now, I started doing work on menstrual health when I was in high school, and this was from a need that I noticed. And from the time I noticed that women had a problem with knowing about their bodies and people just generally had very little information about science, I said I wanted to do a career in science, and I said I wanted to be a medical doctor because I really loved teaching people about their bodies. As a young woman, one of the first things you need to do is make a decision, making a choice. And I really love a quote by Edwin Markham when he says, "Choice is the hinge of destiny." If you want to get anywhere in life, you need to make decisions. You need to decide what you want to do. Many of us believe in many different things, God, Allah, and many kinds of things, the universe. People have beliefs in all kinds of things. But regardless of what you believe in and who you are and where you come from, one of the things you need to do is make a choice. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a teacher. Before you can accept what other people give you, you need to decide what you want for yourself. You need to decide who you want to be and what you want to use your talents and your gifts for. And if you want to get anywhere in life, one of the things you need to do is make choices. Because if you don't make choices, the world will give you whatever they want. And so at Copper Rose, we are working with different kinds of women and enabling them and helping them make choices about their lives so that the world will not give them what they think is good for them, but the world will give them what they deserve. And that is really the idea behind Copper Rose. Something that's been on my mind lately for the past few days is the talk about women leaders. Just a few weeks ago, we had a Comesa woman leading, and we've had so many women leaders. But one thing I really look forward to seeing when it comes to women is I look forward to seeing a day when we will stop celebrating women leaders. I know that sounds crazy, but the truth is, I look forward to the day when we'll stop celebrating women leaders because that will be the normal. That will be the thing that you never see people celebrating first man president, first man speaker, first man this, first man, because that's the normal. There are more men in leadership, and so there's no need to celebrate when there's a new one that comes on the block, when there's a new man president, when the UN Secretary General is a man. Nobody celebrates and nobody puts man on the before saying his name. And I look forward to a time when we will stop celebrating women leaders because that will be the normal. It will be so normal. It will be like waking up every day. Of course, we wake up every day, we pray or we look out and we are so happy we've woken up, but we don't create parties every day for waking up. But we are creating parties for seeing women in leadership. It's good for our time, but for future generations, I look forward to a time when we won't celebrate women leaders because half of the people in parliament, half of the people in every position position that you can think of will be women. And it is up to us, the generation of today, to create that space, to create that environment, to create that reality. And that is really what I look forward to in the next few years. And just thinking about it is really exciting. And I hope you and I are thinking of ourselves in our area, in our the place where we live, in the schools where we go to, in the places where we work. Are we thinking of ourselves being the CEOs? Are we thinking of ourselves being the members of parliament, the senators, the governors, the presidents even? I really look forward to seeing women thinking about taking up these things. And it really starts from you and me. It starts right now. It starts in this room. It starts from making the decision to say, I am going to do this regardless of what anybody says. And that's really what we should be doing. The theme of this year's conference is breaking shells. When I think of a shell, I think of it in many different ways. But overall, the definition of a shell is a covering. It's a physical covering that covers something or someone, or it's a protection. It's a thing of protection. Now, there are two ways of looking at shells in life, especially when you try to apply it to your life, to my life. There are two ways of looking at shells. The first way is a shell could be a place of growth. When a bird lays an egg, that egg has a shell, and that shell, it's a place in which that chick is protected. So the chick gets all the nutrients from within that shell, and it gets everything that it needs from within that shell up until a point when it's ready to pop out into the world. As we think of shells in our own lives, we need to think of what kind of shells we have around us, or what kind of shells we have created for ourselves. A shell in reflection to a young woman, in a reflection to my life, to your life, would be a place of growth. A shell could be a good thing because it's a place in which you sit down, reevaluate yourself, and try to see how you can equip yourself for the future that you want. If you want to be a president, being in a shell could be taking time to read about politics, to read about business if you want to be a businesswoman, to read all the books you can about the career that you want to take, about the steps that you want to take, about the business that you're running. It could be something you've already started, something that you want to start, but it's a point in which you are there trying to prepare for the future. And you're reading as much as you can, which is the nutrients. You are taking in as much as you can, learning as much as you can, doing free internships, doing free fellowships, doing things that will develop you and get you to where you want to be. Now, as young women, some of the problems we have is that we just want to be born and we want to start walking. We want to be born and we want to already be CEOs when we have no experience, when we have very little information. But it's up to us to take time to grow, to take time in that shell. And sometimes being in a shell could be in a position where you can't even post about what you're doing because there's nothing to post about yet. A shell, even in a human perspective, would be like being in your mother's womb. It doesn't mean you're not there. It means you are there, but you are growing up until a point when you will be ready to come out. And that's one way of looking at a shell, in a way that it's a place of growth. It's a place of perfecting yourself. It's a place for making yourself stronger for the next steps that you want to take. Now, even as we come out of our shells, coming out of our shells could be telling the world, okay, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a nurse, I want to run a business, I want to stand for office, whatever we decide to do. And coming out of the shell, it doesn't mean immediately you tell people that you want to do this, now you are ready to do it, or now you are ready to... Sometimes it just means you can now speak about it because you know exactly what you want, and you know what you need to get to take you to where you want to be. And that's one aspect of looking at a shell. A shell can be a beautiful place, a place of growth. Another way of looking at a shell is, think of an animal that has a shell which never leaves it, that never goes away. I think of only two animals right now. I'm thinking of a turtle and a snail. A shell could sometimes be something that holds you back, something that keeps you from where you want to be, something that it doesn't let you go, it doesn't let you do what you want to do. It's something that every animal that has a shell that never leaves it is one of the slowest animals in the world. Am I lying? A tortoise is slow. A turtle is slow. A snail is slow because that shell never leaves them. And when we try to think about our own lives, one of the things that could be shells in our lives are some of our behavior. Some of us are like, no, I just don't like talking to people. I'm just an introvert. I'm just an extrovert. I'm just too short. I'm just too tall. There are certain things that we've decided on ourselves, and there are certain even habits that are very bad that we've put in our lives. We've accepted them and we've said, this is how I am and this is how I want to be, and we don't want to change them. We don't want to learn. We don't want to learn new languages. No, it's just too hard. It's just too this. It's just too that. We constantly make excuses for doing things that will develop us. And once you make excuses and you close your mind to new ideas, close your mind to new things, you will be like a tortoise. You will not move as fast as you want, as long as you want, because you have something that is holding you back. And so it's really about us getting out of our shells, because only things that get out of their shells fly. Only birds fly. Only things that come out, even like if us as human beings, we pop out of our mother's vaginas to be born, and only something that comes out of the thing that is covering it is going to walk and run and fly and do something great. And so if we want to do great things in our lives right now, if we want to do great things as women, if we want to change the narrative about Africa, if we want to change things, we need to come out of those things that are holding us back. It sometimes coming out means moving from the place where you live to go to another place. It's hard, it's difficult, it's cold, but that is the only way to get to where you want to be in life. Discomfort. Coming out of your shell is like coming out of your comfort zone. And unless you come out of that comfort zone, you will not see great things. You will not see big things happening in your life. You will not see things that are going to change things and make you someone that will read about in newspapers, in everywhere. When I started work on menstrual health, it was something that was very embarrassing. Imagine talking about periods with your father, with your mother, with everyone around you, going on the news, talking about periods. People started calling me the period girl. But it was only because of such acts of bravery that I even got to meet Her Majesty the Queen of England, that I got to meet so many awards that I can't even count right now. It is because of coming out of your shell, doing something that you're not comfortable doing. That is the key to greatness. And I'm not where I want to be, but I think I have moved a little bit better. I'm getting towards to my long-term goals because of coming out of my shell. And that is what young people need to do today, every single day. As I come to close to the end of my presentation, I would like us to think about something. As you come out of your shell, as you pop out, one of the things that makes you stand out as a young woman, as a person, is staying in the game, is persistence, is continuing to do what you love, continuing to stay relevant in order to get to where you want to be. Because just like a bird, just like a human being, being born today doesn't mean you'll be running in no time. You have to keep eating, you have to keep drinking milk, you have to keep growing in order to be able to get to a point where you don't need support anymore. And this comes to the lesson about persistence, about staying, doing something. And I'll give you an example of something that's very common that an African woman would understand. And that is hair. Okay, I have short hair. But how many of us have cut our hair before? I know many of us have cut our hair, but I mean like cutting it really short, maybe like my hair length. How many of us have cut our hair before? Now, cutting your hair, people cut their hair for many different reasons. Some people cut their hair because they want something new, because it's hard to maintain, because it's breaking, because it's hot, many reasons. Let's not go into that. Now, a lot of us cut our hair, and when we cut our hair, we either do two things. Either we keep cutting it and that becomes part of our lifestyle, or we want to grow it better. So cutting your hair could be like starting something new, starting a new business, starting a new company, starting a new school, anything that represents starts. Now, when we cut our hair, there comes a point in our time when the hair is not too short. You can't do a wash and go because it's a bit too long and it gets nappy. And then you also can't tie a puff because the hair is not long enough to be held in one ponytail. So there comes that phase when the hair is not long enough for a puff, but it's too long. It's too long for those afros or something like that. And that's really the hardest time of a hair journey. And those are the times when most women get into protective styles and do things that hide their hair from people because it's just really hard to manage. Now, in our lives, sometimes we get to a point of that weird hair length. I call it the weird hair length, where we started something. We are better off than where we were when we started. But we are also not at a point where we can show significant growth. We're not at a point where we can show significant progress. We are not yet at a point where we can show something for it. Let's say you've started a company, but you're not yet at a point where your profits can pay you a salary. Or you're not yet at a point where you've gotten a position for something, or you're not yet gotten a promotion at your job, or just a stage where we are better than we were, but we are not where we want to be. And that is the weird hair length. Now, when you think about the weird hair length, I also want you to think about another thing. Think of a friend of yours or somebody you know who has hair up to their shoulders. Long hair. Maybe even someone in the room right now who you can look at and say, okay, she has hair up to her shoulders. You've thought of that person. Now think of another person who has hair up to like maybe bra strap length, something like that. Maybe here. That's your second person. And your third person, think about somebody with waist length hair. I don't know, but I'm thinking most likely that person with waist length hair is not an African when you think about them. But regardless of who you think about when I ask you to think about those people, you'll see one thing in common with those people with long hair. When somebody has long hair, they've had it for a long time. Even if they're black or white or whatever race, regardless of whatever, I know our hair grows differently, but I want you to know that every person with long hair has had it for a long time. Some people's hair grows faster, but the truth is they've had it for a long time. They've had it for more than 3 months, more than 6 months, more than 8 months, regardless of how long where they come from, they've still had that hair for a long time. Now, people with long hair will tell you they got split ends, and what did they do? They just trimmed it. They got it tangled at some point, they just trimmed the ends off. It got a bit shorter, but they did something and they continued their journey. Some people have suffered from breakage from hair dyes. Some people get heat damage. Some people get some hair breaks from a hairstyle they did. But regardless of all this, people with long hair have had it for a long time. It brings me back to our personal lives. When we decide to embark on something, how long do we stay doing it? How long do we stay doing it? Do we trim off our ends? Do we cut off some of the things that are not beneficial for our long-term goal? Do we change our strategies? Do we do something different but continue in the game? In order to succeed in everything, you need to stay in the game. You need to stay doing something. You need to keep growing your hair. You need to keep growing. You need to keep doing something for long enough before you can see the effects. Most of the successful people we see, we won't see how long they've been doing something. We'll just see the success. But it's very, very important for all of us to remember that in order to achieve anything great, we need to grow it for some time. And as we go out today and as I leave today, I just want to remind you that for the longest hair in the world, you need the most amount of time. You need the most amount of effort, because nothing great and nothing worth achieving, it happened in a short period of time. It took consistency, effort, and believing in yourself. And I hope that today as you go out, you will remember that story about the hair. You will remember that in order to achieve anything great, you may have to change your strategy, but you have to stay in the game. And I wish you well, and I thank you all so much. And thank you more even to Winnie for inviting me to speak to you and for making things happen in a different way than we planned. And I hope you have a pleasant time, and greetings to you from the lovely Lusaka, Zambia. And I hope that in the next time you're in Zambia, you will definitely keep in touch with me. Thank you so much.